So about 10 or 12 years ago, I was in southern Indiana, and I had lived there for decades. I mean, even when I was making movies, southern Indiana was my home base. And this place was like in the middle of nowhere. It was 18 acres, and it was way far away from everything, very, very rural. I loved it. I had great neighbors, horses, German shepherds, raised the kids, did lots of home growing of food and canning and all that stuff. It was marvelous, but the time had come for a big change. And I had just gotten my second divorce, and last, because I'm done, no more. So I decided, I'd been a fan of High Times magazine for years and years and years. And I had written articles for other magazines like the Utney Reader, and I wrote for Cherry or Sherry magazine. A lot of people pronounce it different ways. It's C-H-E-R-I. I had written for them for 5 or 6 years. So I reached out to the editor of High Times, and I asked, is it possible that I could, write an advice column or something for you? And they said yes. Oh, I was thrilled. So I wrote this advice column for their online version. That meant I could churn out a column every week instead of just once a month for a printed magazine like Cherry. So that was fabulous. Now, with everything that was going on in my life, with the divorce and the kids being older and all that stuff, it was time for a move. So I had been lucky enough to be asked to be a judge at a Cannabis Cup in San Francisco. And I was so thrilled to do that. I mean, my gosh, what a dream opportunity, right? So that was everything you would expect it to be and more. It was marvelous. They had this house where we all got together so we could do our judging, sample the products, write the reviews, write exactly, they had it all figured out. Does it burn okay? Does it taste chemically? Has it been properly flushed? The whole 9 yards. Everything was written down, and it was all on computer. And they had us at this nice house so that we could safely partake without anybody in a hotel or anything going, this smells, what are you doing in your room? None of that. We all did it together in this beautiful little house, and everybody was so cool and so friendly. And I asked the editor, because he had been so nice to me, Dan Sky was his name, and I asked him because he had been so cool, I said, I really need to move out of southern Indiana. The people, the neighbors, they're marvelous. I couldn't ask for better neighbors. But the time has come, for many different reasons, for me to find somewhere else. So you wouldn't happen to know anybody who needs help to grow or anything, would you? And he said, as a matter of fact, I do. And he picked up the phone right there and called his friend in southern Colorado and said, I have a grower, because I had experience, who is available to come and work for you if you would like to hire her. And he said, yes. I was so thankful. So this was before recreational weed was legal in Colorado. I mean, they already had medical marijuana was legal, but recreational had not been voted on or approved yet. That would happen in the next year or so. So I went out there just at harvest time, and it was beautiful, wonderful people. They had this huge field full of plants that were like 20 feet tall by 15 feet wide. It was amazing. And then they had the grow house where they had the clones and the plants in the vegetative state who were still growing before they went into flower. Now, I worked there for, 6 years, I believe it was. And in that time, they added like 8 different huge greenhouses and they expanded. They were really doing some good stuff there. Lots of fabulous people. This whole experience was so unique and so amazing that I wrote a Kindle Vella about it. It's available through Amazon's Kindle thing, Kindle Direct Publishing. And actually, it started out as a movie script. Now, I embellished, and I added a few things. In particular, I added a little sci-fi flair because I love sci-fi. So, aliens, UFOs, the whole thing. And yeah, we did see some UFOs while we were out there in the sky, but nothing like I wrote about. So that was fun. And it's still available, and I'm going to be writing more about it in the next few weeks. Knock on wood, if my health will allow it. That's another whole story altogether. But being out there working on this grow was just amazing. One of the unique things was the gentleman who owned it just so happened to be an Apache medicine man. Now, this is not one of the medicine men or women that I studied with. There were 4 people that were integral to my learning the medicine wheels and other teachings like plants and healing and that kind of thing. Basically, I focused on mental health and mindfulness and depression, anxiety, stress, grief, those kinds of things, dealing with bullies, all that kind of stuff. But this particular medicine man was rather unique. And I did do a sweat lodge with him and some of his friends, and that was fabulous. But there's this thing that if you're a medicine man or a medicine woman, you can't go around telling people that. You can't say it. It takes away from your power. So I can't say I'm a medicine woman. That would, first of all, be bragging. And secondly, it wouldn't be kosher, so to speak. It would be taboo because you're bragging and you're giving away your power by saying that. It should be self-evident in how you carry yourself and in the teachings that you share. But you never, ever, ever come out and say that. Well, he knew that. So he had found a loophole. People would come and he'd say, she knows, tell them what I am. And I'd say, he's a medicine man. So I don't, whatever floats your boat. I'm not going to judge other people. But that's something that I don't feel comfortable. I wouldn't do it. But he did. So that's okay. That's fine. No, nothing bad happened as a result that I'm aware of. So at one time we had a group from MTV there. And they had cast this based on, as most casting directors will do, looks. Who's the prettiest, who's the most handsome, who would be camera friendly, that kind of thing, which is fine. But then they get out here and they're supposed to be filming them actually working. And of course, they don't know the first thing about growing weed. So that was a fiasco. Then they wanted to shoot them partaking. Okay, that's fine. But these people were not regular users. So a couple of them got in over their heads and the ambulances had to be called because they were freaking out thinking they were having a medical emergency. Oh my goodness. I don't think any of this ever aired because it was such a mess, It did not go as planned, Maybe they looked good on camera. I'm sure they did. But they didn't look so good when they were turning green and puking and thinking they were having heart attacks, or when they were trying to work in the 100+ degree sun you know, digging holes and transplanting pots and stuff. That was just above what they were capable of, I suppose. So that was rather frustrating. But I met a lot of really big names in the business, people who were responsible for nutrients and genetics and different strains and stuff, learned a lot of stuff. I had experience with mostly indoor growing and kind of aeroponics and hydroponics, which can give you some very nice yields. But the outdoor growing really was something new to me. I had always been very disappointed by the plants outdoors. And I found that, yeah, it is possible in the right conditions, with the right nutrients and the right care, to grow stuff that is just as good as things that have been grown hydroponically or aeroponically. So it was a very nice learning experience. And like I said, I met a lot of wonderful people. And the whole thing was so unique with our breaks. When the owner would come, he'd say, boss is here, and everybody'd stop me, break time. And he had this huge table out back of this house that's across from where we were growing. So it wasn't the same property, but he owned the house as well. And a lot of people stayed in that house. As a matter of fact, at one point in time, I stayed in that house too, you know? It was just very convenient to be right there next to work. But when it was break time, he provided, and we all partook. And it was a marvelous time. Our breaks would last sometimes an hour and a half. And we'd just sit there passing and coughing and going over what needed to be done. But when it was time to work, we worked our tails off. We really did, you know, out in the sun. It was basically farm work, you know, which I was kind of used to with doing the growing of the vegetables back in Indiana. Different climate altogether, a lot more humidity in Indiana. That elevation and the sun, I mean, we were like at 6,000 feet. Yeah, that was pretty hot. And then, of course, we voted, and the entire state of Colorado voted, I mean, and recreational became legal. So that's when we expanded and everything. And that was a lot of fun. It was a good experience. Anyway, if you're interested in learning more about what that experience was like, and my little sci-fi fiction flair that I threw in there for fun, check out my Kindle Vella. It's called Gone to Pot. And thank you very much for watching.